Welcome to Love and Abuse Insights. This is an addendum to the regular show that you'll find scattered in between full episodes. On Insights, I pick random emails that I haven't addressed yet and do my best to provide my insights and opinions. Everything you hear on this show is for informational purposes only. Always seek a professional for your mental health and well-being. Okay, today's email is, there is no question that I'm in a toxic marriage with a serious control freak. He showed signs of malignant narcissism for years, but he has mellowed a bit and he's on better behavior now. We get along and we get by and we function together as a couple. I do find myself walking on eggshells, which is not fun. He does occasionally stress me out, but he does a lot for me and he is the earner, so I'm relieved of that stress. My question is, what if you're holding on to the lifestyle and financial support, the thought of not being alone, we are older, and just the fear of going through the pain of divorce and the guilt? I feel like I have to make a decision of some kind. I'm just lost and confused about what to do. Some of our values are very much at odds as well. Any podcast episodes or anything that you can suggest to be helpful? Okay, thanks so much for sharing that. One of the things that you said right at the very end was some of our values are very much at odds too. And I think your entire question is a values-based question. It's based on what you value over what else you value. And what I mean by that is, what do you value more? Do you value the lifestyle, the financial security, more than maybe you're not getting, like maybe a daily happiness, a daily comfort, not walking on eggshells every day? This, to me, does come down to a values question. Not saying that, hey, when you have opposite values or opposing values, that you should just automatically leave. But I am saying that when you are trying to come up with an answer to your problems, to your challenges, that almost always, when you base your decision on what you value most, almost always, in fact, in my life, it's been 100% of the time, but for everyone else, almost always, when you make a decision based on what you value most, when you're in alignment with what you value most, the decision works out for the better and you're happier. This doesn't mean you won't go through pain or challenges, but in my experience, and in a lot of people that I've worked with and a lot of people that I know, when they make decisions based on what they value most, the decision almost always works out. And that just means they're in alignment, they're happier. Everything is going well because they didn't make any decisions based on what they feared coming true. They didn't make any decisions based on what other people told them to do. Like, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but this is where I go with decision making. When it's too hard to make, you are definitely in your very conscious brain and you're thinking rationally and logically. Very good ways to think of things. I think you should think of things rationally and logically and use your rationality and your logic to help you make the decision based on your values. What does that mean? That means what you value most, how can you rationally and logically achieve that which you value? And when you make the decision based on what you value most, there are going to be logistics. There are going to be difficulties. There are going to be challenges. And so you think ahead. What challenges am I going to face? Oh, this person wrote, she's worried about being alone and the finances, and there's emotional stuff going on there, and there's also quality of life stuff going on in there. And this is where I look at values and I ask, what's more important? Is not walking on eggshells more important than your financial security? That may be a dumb question. People might be listening right now saying, well, you have to have financial security. I do agree. You do need money to operate in this world. You need money to basically survive most of the time. There was a time I had no money and I still survived. I still made it. I still ate every day. Not everyone can do that. But I was fortunate to have a series of events that happened that I ended up going to the soup kitchen. I was close enough to a soup kitchen that I could eat every day. So I experienced that, and I have realized that even without money, I can get my needs met. And I can still be happy. So I'm not saying that this is a direction that I'm leading you in or anything like that, but this is where I go, is I base my decision on what I value most. And the way I do that is I write down what I value most. Like, you have some things in here that you could write down. I'll be alone. Okay, so where is that on your values list? Your value will be probably, I don't want to be alone. I want to be with someone. For what purpose? Maybe it's the purpose of just sharing life, having a companion. That's wonderful. I love that experience. It's a wonderful experience that we should all experience if it's good, if it's a happy time. If it's comfortable, yeah, that's good too. And if it's only comfortable and you're not happy, that might be something you have to consider. Or if it's uncomfortable and it's toxic, this is where you might have to balance things out, where I look at a scale where I have my happiness in the relationship versus my sadness or upset or my anger on the other side of the scale. And which one weighs more? Does happiness weigh more? Are you happy more than 50% of the time in the relationship? Because if that's the case, this could be a relationship that you could just continue and enjoy the days that are good and just kind of push through the days that are bad. I know some other people are listening right now saying, what? Push through a toxic relationship? Well, this person wrote they're in therapy, so that's helpful. You're in therapy and you're working through things. If he is a malignant narcissist, is that curable? Is he improving? You said he improved a little bit, and because of that, that does help you become more tolerant, and you are actually asking the question, if I should leave. I mean, that's the question I'm interpreting here. And if that's the case, if you should stay or if you should leave, I think you need to write down what's most important to you and what you value, just like I was saying. So one of them is the need to be with someone else. So you put that on the list. And the next thing might be, at least with this message and the context of this message, I need to be financially secure. I need the lifestyle, whatever the financial security affords you. I want that lifestyle. I want to share times, when we go camping or when we go to the movies. That might be in your values. That could be part of the alone value or not being alone value. I don't want to experience the pain of the divorce. That could be up there. Because you might value, just like a lot of people, they value not experiencing pain. They value experiencing pleasure. Divorce is usually not pleasurable, but you don't want to experience the pain of the divorce, so that's kind of a value up there. And also, you feel guilty maybe considering this, or you'll feel guilty if you get a divorce. And you put that up there. I don't want to feel guilty. So what's more important? This is where you put them in a hierarchy. What's more important, that I don't feel guilty or that I'm not walking on eggshells? Is not experiencing the pain of the divorce more important than experiencing the toxic behaviors of my partner? You put all the stuff that's important, and you're going to find that what you value most is at the top, the top of your list, and then you can make a decision based on that. Because from what you're writing here, you are telling me that it's more important not to feel guilty than to be alone. And if that's your value system, that's okay. No judgment here. You absolutely can choose to make decisions based on not feeling guilty instead of making decisions based on not being alone. Now, usually values are kind of a positive thing. Like, you usually don't say, I value not feeling guilty. You usually say, I value feeling good. I value feeling confident in my decisions. And if you have those values, absolutely put them up there. And I'm not saying you have to make a list of 100 things. I'm just looking at your message here and seeing that, like you said, some of your values are very much at odds. So I know what you're saying. You're saying your values and his values are different. They're at odds. I get that. Usually when that happens is a lot of incompatibilities that can happen. So when you have a lot of incompatibilities, that can be a problem in relationships too. But what I'm looking at is that your own values have to be prioritized and understood. You have to put them on paper and realize what's more important. And how do you learn that? You just ask yourself, is it more important for me to not walk on eggshells every day as opposed to feeling guilty about the divorce? It's an odd way to phrase it. But once you do this, you're going to discover what the most important values are to you. So I like to make decisions based on what I value most, and I decide what I value most by asking myself that question. Is this important to me? And how important is it to me? Is it important that I don't feel guilt? Well, I probably won't be able to avoid that, that guilt feeling. But if I don't get divorced, maybe I can avoid that. So what you're saying is that it's important to not feel guilty over walking on eggshells every day. No, I don't want to walk on eggshells either. But it's more important that you don't feel guilty because you're not leaving. So it's more important that you don't feel guilty. I mean, I'm just reading what you wrote here. You're saying that you have a decision to make, but these obstacles are preventing you from making that decision. And they are obstacles. They are mental blocks in a way. They're mental obstacles where you have to decide what's more important, because either way doesn't sound very pleasant. And this is my final point, is that sometimes decisions like this, either way is unpleasant. And I like to put everything out on the table and make my decision based on what's on the table. So what's on the table is the rest of my life with this person, feeling the way I do now every day, and nothing changes. That's one thing on the table. Another thing on the table is I leave this person, feel the pain, feel the guilt, and eventually I heal. And I feel better and I feel different, but I'm alone. But I feel better because I'm not in this toxic relationship. I mean, I'm giving you my perspective if I were to make this decision. Not being in the toxic relationship, I'm not experiencing the stress and anxiety and other things that I used to experience. So now I have that on the table. And what else can I put on the table? What if I just said, hey, if you continue treating me this way, I won't sleep in the bedroom with you anymore. I won't have lunch with you every day. I don't, you bring up the accountability part. I'm not going to go through this with you because I want to be a partner in a normal, healthy, balanced relationship. And I don't want to be treated this way. So if you continue treating me this way, I'm not going to do certain things. I'm not going to stick around. You could say that. I'm not going to stay here. And so that could be on the table. All these decisions that we could make. I like to look at it this way. If I stay and nothing changes, will I be okay? And I'm just going to break it down to something simple. If I stay and nothing changes, will I be okay? But what if it changes? You can't put that on the table because that's a but. That's a wishful thinking. That is hoping, wishing, and praying that something might happen. If you base your decisions on what might happen, you have an infinite number of possibilities. And when you put that on the table, an infinite number of possibilities, you get stuck. This is where the rut forms. Well, this could happen, and what if this happens, and let me wait a month, and what if I wait 6 months? And all of it is certainly doable. You could certainly wait. You could certainly see what happens. But remember the trend. The trend line says if things are gradually moving up and to the right, then it's probably getting better. And if it continues to get better, maybe it'll continue to get even better because the trend has proven that it gets better. But what about other components, other areas of the relationship? Have those gotten better? Have they stayed the same? Have they gotten worse? The history tells the future. That's the trend. So the relationship's history is going to tell you what's going to happen tomorrow. And when you know what happened yesterday, you have to rely that it's going to happen tomorrow too. Now, with the emotionally abusive relationship, day-to-day is different, I know. But that's why you expand, you zoom out and expand what you see. You don't look at the week. You look at the month. You look at the last 6 months. You look at the last year. And then you see the trend. Because yesterday, literally yesterday, will be different from today and will be different from tomorrow. Because sometimes they show up nice. They show up compassionate and kind. And you want more of that. So you wait to see it again. You hold out, hoping to see it again. And this is why I rely on trend instead of infinite possibilities. Trend is the rationalization, the logic, where you look at it and say, this is what has happened. So I know that this will continue to happen. You could say, I assume this will continue to happen, but you're in that so many possibilities realm again. So I like to know that this is going to be the continuing trend, because that helps me make my decision as well. So I hope this helps with your decision. I know it's a tough one. This is always a tough decision to make if you're going to stay, if you're going to go. I always go to the question, if this never ever changes, would I stay? That's one of my primary questions when it comes to this. If nothing ever changes, will I be okay? Will I be okay with it if they never change? Will I be okay with this relationship if it stays the same? Most people who write to me would say, well, no, I don't want it to stay the same. I don't like it. I don't need this in my life. I want to live my life in a different way. I want to be happier. I don't want to walk on eggshells. I don't want to have to explain myself or defend myself. I just want someone that I can talk to and connect with and just be normal. With certain people, you can't do that. With certain people, you can't be normal until you shake up their world. Sometimes you have to say, look, I'm not going to tolerate it anymore. I can't tolerate it anymore. And when you say, I can't tolerate it anymore, they're going to wonder, well, what are you going to do? And let me just remind you, if you do nothing, they'll know that anything they do is okay. There is no accountability. So if you say, I won't be able to tolerate this anymore, or I won't tolerate this anymore, and you do nothing about it, then they realize there's nothing to be afraid of. You've given them nothing to be afraid of by saying, I'm not going to tolerate it, but you do nothing. Yeah, I know it's difficult to do something. It's difficult to provide that accountability, but that's what needs to happen sometimes. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing to provide accountability, because if they realize how serious you are, maybe then they'll reflect. Maybe then they'll stop being focused on you and your behavior and start looking inward and thinking, maybe I need to change something about myself. Again, pick your battles wisely. Some people you can't do this with. And I hope this person who wrote, thank you so much. I wish you the best on this. I wish you much strength through this. I know it's difficult. This is the best I can offer. You know, you said you're getting older, and I hear that, and I think, wow, this is when you really need to make a decision for the rest of your life, because you can either spend the rest of your life going down this one path where nothing changes, and if you're okay with that, that's great. Or you can go down this other path where guilt and fear and pain come, but it will change. So we have this one path that we know won't change because we've committed to knowing that the trend, it will always be the trend. And then we have this other path that we know will eventually change. It will. The pain, the fear about divorcing someone, that goes away after, you go through it. You have your healing time. You have to work with guilt. You have to work through guilt. There are things that you might have to work on there. I actually have an episode on that called 6 Reasons You May Feel Guilty for Leaving the Abuser or for Wanting to Leave the Abuser. Just go to loveandabuse.com and you'll see it there. But I hope this gave you something. Thanks so much for writing, and we'll talk to you again soon.